G'day there guys, give me that because I said so. Back at it again with another episode of r/Entitled People. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for a bloody good story. Or 2, or 10. Posted by user Reese's Pie. Titled, My sister and I went out for dinner last night and encountered a couple of entitled parents. Like the title said, my younger sister and I decided to go for a late dinner last night in the next town over. It's about 15 minutes drive, and we both decided to get a lift there from my husband and a taxi home, so we could have a drink. Dinner was great. We went for a few cocktails afterwards and finished up around 11. Most places had started to close around that time, and there's only one taxi rank. We joined the queue, which was pretty long already. About 6 people in front of us, and waited. When we were about 3 from the front, my sister decided to run to the cash point and left me in the queue to hold our spot. By this point, the line for cabs was huge. I'd say maybe 30 to 40 people behind us. After about a 25-minute wait, as the person in front of me gets into their cab and drives away, 2 well-dressed and obviously drunk women aged around 40-ish stroll past the queue and stand in front of me. I assume they are either not wanting a cab or don't know the etiquette. I said, "Excuse me, there's a queue here. You'll need to get in line." They both just looked at me, and then one says with a smirk, "Yes, and we're at the front." Both turn their back to me and start chatting to each other. I didn't really know what to say to that, and my sister arrived back. She immediately noticed that they weren't the same people as we'd been behind, and questions me. I tell her, and she says to the women, "Get to the back now." They just looked at her and laughed. Taxi pulls up, and it's important to note that my sister has a nasty temper at best, and very little self-control. Sister goes, "I'm not joking. If you get in that cab, I'll drag you out by the hair." I begin to wonder whether we'll end up going home by cab or in a police van. People behind have now clocked them and are starting to make comments as well. One starts to look uncomfortable and kind of edges away. Mouthy woman steps off the curb to open the taxi door. My sister strode forward and literally hip-checked the woman out of the way of the open door. It was actually really impressive. I jumped into the cab and angry sis dives in behind me. Woman 1 is in the gutter screaming unintelligible nonsense at the now closed car door, and woman 2 is looking around as if she expected someone to come to their aid. The driver asks what that was all about, and we tell him. He looks skeptical. They must see it a lot, so I don't blame him. He opens the window and shouts to the guy who'd been behind us, "Hey mate, who was first? These girls or those 2? Meaning the cheeky Q bitches. The guy tells him it was us, and we drive off. Chat to the driver as we go, and he is suitably irritated by their behavior. There's a one-way system in this town. So to get back on the road you kind of have to double back on yourself. As we drove past the taxi rank a few times, the 2 women were again stood at the front, ignoring the obviously ticked off people behind. We marvel at the brass neck of the 2, and the driver tuts and mutters to himself. Legendary taxi driver then gets on the radio, describes the women, and says they aren't to be picked up as they're drunk and belligerent. We tipped the driver very generously. Posted by user Nanoa03. Titled, Lady comes 35 minutes early and complains about it. Okay, so my grammar isn't the best, blah blah blah, sorry for that. Anyways, this story happened to my mum 2 days ago, and I wanted to share it. People in this story, L, the entitled person, my mum, which is my mum of course, and C, my mum's nice customer. So my mum is a nail artist and beautician. She is well known in the village that I live in, and people know I'm her daughter. Her workplace is connected with the house. It has 3 rooms, one for nails, one for waxing, eyebrows, etc., and one for the other stuff. Then a checkout area, a bathroom, and a private room. I help my mum by cleaning, so that's how I heard them. I get my pocket money like that. My mum always makes appointments when the customer should come and takes her time for them. For example, one has the appointment at 3 p.m. and the other one at 5 p.m. C had her appointment at 2 p.m. and L at 3 p.m. C just wanted a simple nail design so it wouldn't take long. 25 minutes after C arrived, came L, 35 minutes early. Of course, my mum was ticked, but didn't say anything. She just told her to sit down and wait. But L didn't want to and said, "But why should I wait? I'm here now, so she should leave." My mum says, "You didn't come on your time, so wait or go." L just looked at C, pissed off, and sat down. My mum was just ticked at that point. Because of the corona, my mum had strict rules from the health department. If she wouldn't keep them, she would have to close. That would be crap for the whole family. Everybody has to keep to the times of their appointments and must not come earlier. After 20 minutes, my mum was done with C and they went to the checkout area. L says, "Finally, took you long enough." My mum ignored her and let C pay. C says, "Goodbye, see you next time." And my mum says, "Goodbye, C. Okay, now to you, L. Please, next time, just keep to your time." Yeah, I will, but now it's my turn." "I'm sorry, but your appointment is in 10 minutes. I'm taking that time to go to the bathroom and drink something." "No, you can't do that. I have an appointment." "I know, in 10 minutes. While I'm gone, please disinfect your hands and go to the room." L, now angry, said nothing, and did what my mother said. My mum did what she wanted to do and came back. The whole appointment, L just talked about her family and her job. Nothing interesting. My mum often has people like this, but this time it was the first time somebody acted like a customer should leave just because she is there. At least she wore a mask. Posted by user Cafe Con La Brouilla, titled, "Entitled Friend Wants Free Ramen." This is one of the many instances that led to me not wanting to be friends with this woman. Me is me, entitled friend is Stacy, not real mom, but her mom's got it going on. This happened a few years ago. One day, Stacy texts me and asks if I want to go to a ramen place with her. It's very popular, so we have to leave early. I said yeah, since ramen pretty much always sounds good, and she asks me to pick her up. It's out of my way entirely, but I don't mind much since I'm used to giving her rides, and she doesn't drive. After waiting for about 30 to 40 minutes, we get seated and order our food drinks. This place charges a price per bowl size, then charges extra for each add-in. I don't have extra cash to spend, I'm in school at that time, so I get water, a soda, and like 4 extras. Stacy gets 2 sake, a tea, a large bowl, and about 10 add-ins. So I gently remind her that they charge per item, and she says she's not worried. The food is great, and we have an okay conversation. I was pulling away a bit at this point because she wanted to monopolize my time and was angry that I was working, going to school, and got engaged. Stacy had multiple times that she disliked my now husband, because he gets more of my love and attention than her. When it's time to pay, I ask if they do separate checks. Stacy gives me a look. The guy says no, but we can pay cash and card. Awesome. Stacy grabs a check from me and starts marking what she's paying for, says, "Okay, the rest is what you're paying for." I'm like, dude, this is wrong. You put your drinks and some of your food as mine. No, you had that. She spent several minutes trying to convince me that I had eaten that. I say I didn't eat that, and I didn't have alcohol because I'm the designated driver. And she says, well, I'm a single mum. 3 kids, different dads, one in the picture, but not together with her. So it's hard for me. Look, I know it's hard, but I can't afford to pay for you. I have school, rent, etc. I can't be covering your meals. Plus, you asked me to go out to eat, Stacy. She says, you know, Sandra's boyfriend, Brian, always pays for me when we go out. Alex, hubby, never pays for me. You need a better boyfriend. Engaged at the time. I say, dude, stop. It's not our responsibility to pay for you when we eat, especially when you invite us. You didn't even tell me you were low on cash. We argue back and forth for a while. She finally pays her portion, and the bill came out to around $65. $25 was mine, left $5 for the tip. The rest is hers. She leaves exact cash, no tip, so leave an extra few bucks. On the way back to her place, she gets somber and asks why I'm so mad at her. I say, because you expected me to pay without even asking, then said that Alex is a bad fiancé because he doesn't pay for you? You know how hard we work, what's going on in my life, because I have some health issues, and that we're both in school. She says, but you don't have kids, you don't know how hard it is. We argue more, and I leave her at her place. Sorry for the long post and any mistakes I made. On mobile. TLDR, entitled Friend expects meals for free. Posted by user Ranjit Kumar Singh. Titled, Why do old people feel entitled to comment on your weight and then are ticked when you clap back? Hey folks, long-time lurker, you know the rest, lol. Based on certain life experiences, I just need to ask, why do old people feel the need to comment on your weight and then are ticked when you clap back? Let me explain what I mean with the following stories. Background. I've generally been a big guy for you. Had a period where I was fit and physically lost weight and maintained it for years. But the last 10 years, since I got a job as a teacher, it's been a struggle to maintain a work and health balance. I would start doing workouts, cardio or gym, and be consistent for some days or weeks until I get a whole bunch of essays to correct, coupled with school events, etc. So then plans would get derailed for some time, and my diet would go out the window too. This lockdown has afforded me time to work on this consistently, so I've lost some weight and I'm still working on it. However, in my country, people, especially old people, feel entitled to greet you based on your weight. Story 1. I had left work during a free period to pay a bill, which was literally down the street from where I work. So I'm walking, minding my own business, and some person would shout, "Hey, where are you going with all that weight?" So I just replied as loudly, "By your mother." I'm too polite to people to tolerate this crap from them. Story 2. Another time, I was walking home from my work. 15 minutes, but it's hot. Like, fry an egg on the sidewalk hot. I live in the Caribbean. It was the start of a new school year, and I'm intending to do my afternoon run as soon as I get home, because I know if I wait until the evening, I would lose that motivation. So because of the heat, I'm sweating buckets. I spot an elderly lady that I know from my area walking in the opposite direction. I'd usually say, "Good afternoon," or another pleasant greeting as I'd pass and be on my way. Before I even get to say that, she says, "Like, you need the exercise? Like, you need the exercise." Direct quote, no lie. So I pause in shock, and then I'm like, screw this, in my mind, of course. So I reply, "And you need a facelift." She's angry. I don't care. But she never did that again. Story 3. Just Friday, I called out another old lady on said behavior. So, after 4 attempts of her mentioning my weight and me avoiding talking about that with her to send a subtle hint, I eventually asked her, "So, answer me this. What is it with you old people insisting that you must comment on another person's weight? What kind of reaction were you expecting?" I know when I was brought up, I was taught how to greet people properly. Clearly, you were dragged up. So tell me, now, what kind of reaction were you really expecting again now? After some seconds of silence, I said, "I thought so," and I bounced, literally, out of the room. When I got home, I told my mum, if an old tramp complains to you that I was rude, ask her first what did she say first to earn that. Mum burst into laughter, ended her conversation on the phone immediately, and asked me what happened. I have a great aunt who is entitled in her own way, and she loves to do this, but I'll post about her in another story. Stay tuned for that. Posted by user Thorn Pudding. Titled, Aunt is not happy with wedding, demands compensation. There definitely seems to be something about aunties that make them so easily entitled, as posts about them keep popping up here. So here's mine. Backstory. I lost my dad to a tragic accident when I was a very young kid. He was a jet pilot in the Air Force. Crap happens, man. My mum found herself a widow at the age of 28 with 3 kids. Tough times. After a year or so of her being stuck in a heavy depression, times of which I have but faint memories. She came back to life. After some months of dating, she went to marry my dad's best friend, with whom we were already well acquainted. He was also in the military, a commanding officer in submarines. My dad's family was not pleased at all with that wedding, to the point that my grandmother forbid any relative from attending it. They felt like it was disrespectful to my dad's memory/legacy, and they felt like they had a say in how my mum would lead her life from now on. Yeah, like, what the hell, right? I have enough material to run a multi-installment story about my dad's family and their bewildering sense of entitlement with our lives. But for now, I'll focus on my aunts, since that moment was probably the highest ranking in terms of induced astonishment for us. So, we are now some years in my mum's second marriage. The year is 90-something. I'm 9 or 10, and my little stepbrother is a couple of months old. We live in a coastal town, because Navy base, and my entitled aunt, EA, announces she'll be visiting over the weekend because she wants to see her 3 nephews and niece. My mum and stepfather oblige, since they think it's important that we kids keep contact with our dad's family and relatives, despite my parents not being on very good terms with them. Entitled Auntie arrives on Saturday and immediately demands that her trip be refunded by my parents. Then she proceeds to cuss them, belittle them, and tell them how worthless they are. Seeing how the conversation gets quickly heated, my mum ushers us upstairs while my stepfather does the talking. At some point, I sneak out of my room and, from the staircase, witness how that last bit of conversation unfolded, which gloriously ended my entitled auntie's relationship with my parents. Mum, holding my still very young stepbrother in her arms, says, "Calm down, entitled auntie, and lower your voice. You're upsetting the baby." Entitled auntie says, "Don't you dare talk to me like that, you little tramp. You tramp! You just couldn't hold it, huh? You just had to dishonor all of us by getting married again so you could have sex again, huh?" Stepfather says, "Shut up, entitled auntie. This is absolutely insane. I can't stand it anymore. Do you even realize what you're saying? And you horrible man. When I think you were once invited at our place for the summer by my dad, how could you turn so evil after that? Don't you know my parents? Have you got no respect for them?" Mum says, "Entitled auntie, you're talking absolutely nonsense. Please respect me, my freedom, and our family by leaving our home." Stepfather says, "Now! Fine!" She lays her eyes on our stereo in the corner of our living room, and adds after a pause all of the sudden, "But I'm taking your stereo with me as a compensation." What the actual? What do you mean a compensation? Stepfather, unable to remain patient any longer, says, "Fine, just take it and get the hell out of my place." Stepfather goes to unplug the stereo, while entitled auntie grabs some random CDs that were lying around. Entitled auntie is quickly shoved out of the house by stepfather, and my last memory of that afternoon is of her, seen from the window of my sleeping room as she was trying to stuff the said stereo into her luggage, open in the middle of our driveway. She was never invited again, and never tried to invite herself to our place after that. P.S. As I grew older, I was able to develop some sounder relationship with most of the relatives on my dad's side, but entitled auntie somehow always remained a bit shy and distant. Posted by user Salty Miyuki, titled, "EL tries to steal/rip my blanket, so I hit her in the head with my knitting needles." Also forgot to add that I was 22 at the time. So this happened just before Christmas when I was making some chunky blankets for my grandparents and my boyfriend's parents as gifts. And I was using a technique called hand knitting. You use your hands as needles instead. But because I want to make a decent sized blanket, I don't have enough arm to make, so I had to use big knitting needles. But these are like the hollow plastic ones you can get at Michael's, not the wooden ones. So, around the beginning of December, I was just about to finish the first blanket, and haven't started the second one. I had to do a lot of trial and error with the first one, so I was crunched for time. So I started to bring the blanket with me when I go out, because I want to get it done. So I had gone to the grocery store with my mum, and I knew she was going to be a while, but I didn't want to wait in the car. So I went inside with her and sat on the bench at the front and knitted. After about 20 minutes, a few rows that had to be unraveled, a woman comes up to me and started a conversation with me. At this time, I was familiar with Entitled People, thanks Reddit, so I was a little wary. This woman looked to be in her 50s and wearing a very fluffy looking winter coat that looks more to show than to actually protect from the cold. By the way, this is Canadian winter. She asked me what I was making and such, etc. Then she asked me if I was selling the blankets and said she wants to buy the one that I was making at that moment. Before I could say no, she started to go grab my blanket. I pulled back and immediately got up and told her no, I wasn't selling, and no, she couldn't have this one, and putting away my blanket. She started to scream at me, accusing me of stealing her blanket, and actually succeeded to grab my blanket and started to pull. Luckily, I was still holding onto the needle that had my current row on it. Let me just say that her pulling on my blanket didn't do as much damage, and it just tightened the loops with the blanket and just stretched it. But I was mad, overwhelmed, and anxious that this woman was trying to take the blanket that I was knitting for my grandparents. So as I was yelling at this woman to let go of my blankets, and during my overwhelming situation, she was starting to get physical by pushing and slapping me, so in retort, I grabbed the free needle and whacked her hard on the side of her head with the bottom of the needle, not the pointy part. And in result, she lets go of the blanket and falls to the ground with a look of bewilderment and shock. And as soon as I did that, security showed up right behind and grabbed the woman off the ground, who was now spewing curses at me and at the security guards to press charges. And I'm there, just standing there in a defensive position with my knitting needles ready to strike. The manager of the store had saw the whole thing and called security and explained everything to me, and asked me if I wanted for them to call the cops and press charges. I blinked a few times. By the way, I have high-functioning autism, so after that ordeal, then to make a quick decision after that, I sort of just broke down, almost like a computer. I looked at the manager and told him no, because I didn't want this to get big, all because of a blanket, but the woman was removed from the premise, and she was banned with that store and all of the sisters' stores in the area. And my mum got her whole shopping trip, close to $200 worth of food, almost free. And the manager gave us like half a year worth of comp groceries for the troubles. So yeah, also have to explain to my mum why her trip was discontinued and why I was flustered as hell in itself. My mum was super ticked that that had happened. But seriously, this is the first time I have ever encountered an entitled person before. Edit, wow, this blew up my phone after waking up, and it really shook me. By the way, the woman came back 6 months later while I was working as a cashier at that same store, and that was an interesting encounter to say the least. Posted by user, a username, titled, I don't need to carry my dog at the airport. This is short, but this just happened to me, so I thought I'd share. I'm at the airport with my mum, and we're helping to train the TSA dogs to sniff out contraband. We're sitting in D5, a place in Concourse D where people wait to board their flights, and a woman goes into the bathroom with her little dog. The TSI guy we're with waits outside to tell her that she has to carry the dog or put it in a carrying bag. As soon as she comes out, he tells her so. She says to him, "No, it says I can have my dog on the floor," or something to that effect. He just has this look on his face like, "Mate, I've worked here for years, with the same announcement about this going off every 15 minutes, you can't tell me what to do." And as if to prove his point, an announcement came through, echoing the whole concourse. Animals are not allowed on the airport floor, only service animals are permitted. Emotional support animals must either be carried or in a kennel. And while this went off, the TSA guy was pointing up at the speakers as if to prove his point. Sorry if this doesn't belong here or isn't satisfying, I just thought it was kind of funny. Posted by user JLJeffrey06, titled, Street Performer Embarrasses Entitled Parent in Front of Crowd. Our cast are Entitled Parent Karen, SP is the street performer. Backstory. Me and my family were visiting Yorkshire as a holiday 2 or 3 years ago, and were walking down to a touristy type street place when we noticed a large crowd up ahead. A street performer had set himself up in the middle of a crossroad area, so he was hard to miss. My family and I had just bought some lunch, so we sat down on a bench nearby and watched him while we ate. He was doing the usual street performer type stuff, juggling and fire eating, the type of stuff that looked dangerous but actually was performed hundreds of times a day. Just as street performer was about to do a sword swallow, enter entitled parent. "This is so fake, I bet that sword bends or whatever." Entitled parent then pushed her way to the front of the crowd until she was stood right next to the SP. He says, "Maybe it is. Would you like me to run it through your heart, and maybe then we can debate over whether it's fake or not?" Entitled parent stares at him like street performers just dropped his pants and crapped on her shoes. "It's people like you who are ruining society. Probably don't even have an education." I'll have you know that I graduated university, majoring in engineering, but didn't really enjoy it, so I turned to performing. "And does your, air quotes, performing provide you with enough money?" Smiling smugly. "Well, yes it does. I have a house and a wife with a kid, so I'd say I'm pretty well off. How much do you earn, if you don't mind me asking?" Entitled parent mutters something very low, considering she stood there in designer clothes. Don't ask which brand, I don't know or care. "Well then, looks like you'll be needing this." Picks up hat that has probably around 200 pound in it. Entitled parent turned away horrified and says, "I don't need your filthy stolen money. I get all the money I need selling essential oils." "Oh yes, essential oils. Fragrance of fake and perfume to scam. I love your newest release, Odor Pyramid Scam. In that case, you won't need this." Puts hat down. "I will continue to perform here and laugh as you get in a bus and go home to watch TV and drink cheap wine you've bought with your benefits." Entitled parent went red in the face and stormed off. The crowd then all cheered and applauded, and street performer continued his performance. Funny thing was, on the bus back to the campsite, we actually saw entitled parent. Posted by user Fred Z Red, titled, "Karen won't help a blind man because he's too useless to find it himself." This happened to my friend, who we'll call Bill. Bill became fully blind in his early 20s from macular degeneration. He's now in his early 50s, and although he does a great job of getting around, he has a seeing eye dog who does a good job getting him around town, he does have trouble with things sometimes. His hearing is really good, and he can usually recognize my voice and the sound of my power wheelchair. I'm a C4 to 5 incomplete quadriplegic with an acquired brain injury. The damage to the optic nerve in my brain caused half of one eye to become fully blind, and the rest of my sight was affected. Even though I can see well enough, my hearing is extremely sensitive, and I can hear things from a long way away. A while back, before COVID, I was downtown doing some shopping. I was in the grocery store when I heard some commotion in another aisle, so I went to investigate. I could hear Bill and another woman talking, and as I rounded the corner, it was Bill, his dog standing defensively in front of him, and a textbook Karen standing near the chips and biscuits. Their conversation went something like this. It was a while ago, so the dialogue won't be exact. "Miss, please, find someone who works here or get your damn dog to find what you want. It's not my fault you're too useless to know where things are." "What? Excuse me, what in the hell is your problem?" "Oh, goody, it's the cripple parade to the rescue." Me, ignoring Karen, "Bill, it's OP, are you okay?" I asked this woman if she could help me find the chips, and she started yelling at me to find it myself. Bill wears sunglasses, and it's visibly obvious that he's blind. I'm extremely angry at this point, and I say, "What the hell is your problem, ma'am? Did you wake up with your panties in a twist or something? Ignorance and stupidity, although plausible, doesn't count as disabilities. So how about you run along and let me help, because clearly I'm more capable of navigating the store than you." "How dare you, you little—" "No, ma'am, stop. Walk away now before I make you. My chair goes much faster than you. You want to test me? You... And she walked away, not wanting to know if I was bluffing. I wasn't. I helped Bill find everything else he needed, and we didn't see Karen again after that. It takes a lot to make me angry, and rude people are at the top of the list of things that get my goat. It takes a few seconds to help someone, so I don't get why she blew up at him about it. I know it's not Karen's job to help him, but there are better ways to avoid helping someone than yelling and insulting them. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the content today. If you guys loved watching it as much as I loved making it, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below, maybe like the video, who knows. I'd also like to take this time to thank my awesome Patreon and channel members. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be homeless on the streets of Ireland, crying, Irish dancing all over town. It would just be a mess. But no, for real, you guys are up on the screen now. Thank each and every one of you guys. And if you personally want to join the club yourself, there are links down in the description below. There's also the join button next to the subscribe button. Small monthly fee, but hey, it goes a long way to help me create more awesome content. Well, with that said, guys, I hope you do have a lovely day, night, sleep, evening, day at work, day at school, whatever you're up to. I hope you keep awesome today. You're looking amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.